Everyone just got home from the Odyssey after a little bit of a drive since it required that drive to go see it in IMAX 70mm, and to commemorate the occasion wore my Dunkirk shirt on IMAX 70mm from literally 9 years ago. That's quite literally almost a decade ago at the exact same theater that I watched it. We even got the free posters there. A little crowded in here to unravel them, but they'll probably be snapshots of it up on social media, or you've probably already seen imagery of that. And I wanted to do kind of like a vertical short format style for the review, since it is a movie that I want to talk about very briefly, but at the same time, I know that it's a subject that's not particularly pertinent to the channel. But it is Christopher Nolan. He had his hand in Batman, and I feel like he has still a bit of a hand in Batman, even with properties such as the Odyssey, where you have Agamemnon literally dressed up, looking like Batman, walking out like Batman. I just wish maybe he sounded like Batman, which is honestly one of my criticisms with the movie. Not that creative choice in and of itself, but the flawness, because it's not flawless, it's flawed. What's the flawness? But there's a level of flawness, a level of it's flawed. It's a definitely imperfect, flawed movie, and it's not just. It's one of those things where like the creative choice of Agamemnon's voice versus the way that he looked, contrasting the way that he looked with other casting choices. And I know that the talk of the town online was the casting choices behind the Odyssey, and that is true, but just not for the actors you think, because you're thinking of the usual suspects, and honestly, those usual suspects are barely even in the movie. There's actually some other casting choices that I look and go, well, why would they? And again, like, and it's those things that just kind of build up on each other and just kind of congregate to form just one big criticism that I have with the movie, and that is just an amalgamation of all those creative choices. But outside of those creative choices, the other major problem that I have would practically just be the first 30 minutes, where almost every actor kind of feels like a sock puppet that Christopher Nolan's controlling, to then kind of give us like a brief crash course history class version of the Odyssey and Homer's interpretation of everything that happened then, yeah, in that mythological sense, to the point where it's like literally back to back scenes of expositional dialogue. And even I was kind of getting kind of worried. I was like, is the whole movie going to be like this the whole 3 hours? Only for the movie to say, all right, now that we got that out of the way, here's the fucking Cyclops. And literally, no spoilers, but just as soon as you hit the sequence with the Cyclops, going forward, it just doesn't stop from that point forward. I was like, okay, and it's the movie you were hoping for, in my opinion. Is it going to please every super fan of Homer's work in regards to the Odyssey or the Iliad? Probably not. I feel like at that point we're kind of just talking to the wall, and it just becomes a, did you like it or did you not like it? I'm not going to say that any person's wrong for saying that it wasn't faithful to the book, but there's enough inside of the workings here that made me go, okay, this is Nolan's interpretation. And one of the other factors that kind of brought me on board to say, hey, this is Nolan's take and just going to have to take it or leave it, is the fact that it dawned on me, British actors this is their time to use British accents, and yet they chose American. And I'm like, okay, they're going for something pretty succinct here, in their own way that is accessible. And once I kind of, thematically speaking here, once I kind of rolled into that current, just like another character does in this movie, to just kind of give into that current and let it flow where it may, that's where I enjoyed the movie. And like I said, the momentum got less exposition-y dumping and just turned into a form of a mythological roller coaster as soon as that Cyclops sequence hits. Because that point forward, I truly did feel locked. I felt like the characters were much more locked in, and the cutting back and forth to tell Odysseus' story just worked a whole lot better. That by the end of it, I was down, and there's some pretty really hefty payoffs. One in particular that I think had everybody in the feels, to the point where my girlfriend over on the side was weeping, and I could blatantly tell that it was coming from a mile away. I was like, oh, here it comes, leading to a perfect note to end on, and thought to myself, yeah, this was great. Would I put it in my top 5 of Nolan's? I don't know. I have to sit on it a little bit. So I guess you could interpret that how you will. The fact that I have to think about whether or not I would put this in my top five, because when I walked out of Dark Knight Rise, I mean, no, sorry, not Dark Knight Rises, Dark Knight and Inception. Those were the two that I walked out and went going, yeah, those are in my top five. I warmed up to Interstellar, warmed up to Insomnia a bit more, and Memento's definitely top five. Prestige, I don't know. I have to rewatch again, but this definitely beats Tenet, and this definitely beats Dark Knight Rises. And I would even say it kind of beats Dunkirk. Maybe it's kind of tied for Oppenheimer, or it might actually beat Oppenheimer a bit. I don't know. Like I said, it's another thing that I have to ponder. But right now, I give it like a really, really high 8 out of 10. If it wasn't for that, like I said, a combination of creative things here and there, like little dots of creative things that I'm like, I kind of wish that they would have done something differently to then create those, it kind of group those dots together, that then becomes a pretty significant spot. You get what I'm saying? And then it's those first 30 minutes that's just back to back exposition. I'm like, that could have been paced way better than the way it was illustrated. It's those two main things. If it wasn't for those two main things, probably would have elevated to like a 9 out of 10 or even a 10 out of 10. But outside of that, thoroughly enjoyed it. Recommend you guys check it out. Even if you're put off by like the 3-hour runtime, or the fact that maybe you're not into the Homer story all that much, it's still enjoyable and entertaining and a worthwhile ride all the same, where you can tell that Nolan knows how to do the technical work, still knows how to get great performances, and still is able to keep the pacing going once he finds his rhythm. This movie does take a little longer than usual to find the rhythm, but it is still present. So, The Odyssey, thumbs up from me. Go check it out.